Lights, action! And all of a sudden, all this glass hits the ground, and then the gun comes down, and we see the gun, the silencer. Then we come, we dolly a bit, he unscrews the silencer. Now Carl gets in,
Right, I got you.
he gets in, and Steve gets in with a 3-shot.
But this is a...
I mean, every movie, I just try to mind the opportunities. You know, every movie is exciting because they kind of tell me what it needs. The movie informs me. I've said this before, but when I get a script in a genre that I'm not accustomed to, wow, it's like taking an amazing course, I guess. I become fully, totally immersed in that subject matter, and that's so exciting for me. And this was a very exciting era, but a very painful shoot, because it was very painful to tell the story.
Just as the hand he just starts to come down. Look at his eyes there.
You know, I think Steven's always shown himself as being a remarkable director with actors, and I think actors obviously respect him. I think he's always looking for something fresh and original when he's asking for a certain kind of performance. And in this case, we had so many different scenes and requirements for the actors. They were coming in, some of them for 2 or 3 days at a time, and that was it. So there was a high energy operating all the time on the set.
Why do I understand you better in Greek than in English? What is this?
Literally the first day of shooting, he arrived in the morning and we were shooting that evening. And it was a big, long shot. It was very, very complicated. And he sort of turned to me and just said, you know, just dive in at the deep end. I'm like, okay.
This one is a much more intuitional movie. Nothing was really preconceived in terms of the director's preparation. Nothing was really preconceived in terms of my preparation. Yes, him and I, we have to do some homework, and you know that certain things will happen, and you know the story you want to tell. So it was very interesting to see him, watch him discovering the movie on the set, realizing the complexity of the scene as the scene was being rehearsed, and trying to figure out how is he going to attack this particular scene.
Steven works fast because he's creating at that pace, and that's the way he is. Creating in the moment is so important to him that that's what he's come down to refining as a process as he's aged. He no longer storyboards everything, although on War of the Worlds he would previs lots of things. But essentially, in this movie, he was coming into each location with a kind of open mind of what he would get out of it. And he has said over and over again to me that he feels like that's when he's doing his best work, because he really feels that most of the time his first choices are his best. And probably if he had more time, he wouldn't be able to do it any differently anyway.
When we started the movie, the production schedule was 71 days, but we shot it in 68.
133, Victor, take 2.
The way Steven shoots, it turns acting into athletics, especially in this film. The complicated camera moves, the handheld stuff, it's so imperative for the focus puller, for the camera operator, for the dolly grip, for the actor, for everyone to be so in sync that there are times where at the end of a take you wanted to give each other a hug and a high five because you did it.
Now we're wide here, and the wife gets pushed away by the guy.
I think much like Private Ryan and Schindler's List, Steven approached this movie very realistically. That's what he wanted to do more than anything, to try to capture what might have really happened. He didn't want to give this a kind of glossy Hollywood look to it. He didn't want to have each shot so pre-planned and each scene so overly rehearsed that I think it brings an energy to the movie that makes you feel like you are dropping into these moments as they might have happened.
Supposedly, there was a moment where Avner wound up sharing a safe house by himself with a group of people from one of the Palestinian groups. And I sort of thought that it would be a really interesting moment to, if they all wound up in the same place together, to actually have Avner and one of these guys have a talk.
You can't take back a country you never had.
You sound like a Jew.
Fuck you, I'm the voice inside your head telling you what you already know.
It felt when we were filming it, and I think it's always felt in the script, Steven's referred to it a number of times, as being a kind of an important moment to really sort of quiet everything down and just let you listen to this very simple exchange.
You kill Jews and the world feels bad for them and thinks you are animals.
Yes, but then the world will see how they've made us into animals.
There is a subliminal marking of the places where murder happens with the color red in this movie. It's not absolutely consistent everywhere, but there is the presence of red throughout the movie, just as a reminder, I suppose, subliminally of the level that this is really about, which is the spilling of blood. And it's ultimately, I suppose, what runs through the movie. If some movies have water running through, this one has blood.
There were moments that we were shooting where I knew, based on research, that what we were doing was totally real. And the set would always feel different that day. And you know, it was odd. You would meet the actor who was playing the character that your character was about to kill, and you'd be having a great conversation and having a really enjoying each other's company. And I would always, it sounds like a joke, but it's not. I would always make a point of really wanting to meet and get to know the person I was about to kill as an actor and as a character. And it's always a weird feeling. It definitely is, and it has a very big effect. And then there are some really incredible moments. The scene between myself and Alchir on the balcony was really, really haunting, even just as an actor to do. You know, I remember when I read it, I remember thinking, oh my God, imagine being out on that balcony and talking to this person whom you're about to blow up. Well, to shoot it is equally as, you know, disturbing and weird. But I think one of the most beautiful deaths in the film is the death of Hans. And we shot that in Budapest on the Danube there, and as we're approaching his body and we don't know that he's yet dead, the lights go out on the bridge and on the river, which was completely unplanned, as it was approaching sunup. It actually adds to the scene. It's really kind of, I remember it was spooky when we did it. But it's such an incredibly powerful visual of him sitting there like a statue. It's like something you'd see in Central Park. And then you just have the two characters sit down next to him in that shot of the three of them from behind. I mean, that to me was one of the most moving parts of the film.
I initially did not want to recreate the Munich event. I wanted to just rely on the existing documentary footage, but then I felt that there needed to certainly be a constant reminder of what this story is hinging on, lest we forget. So for me, it was very, very important to continue to remind the audience and these characters, because especially Avner, who sort of replays the experience several times throughout the course of the story.
We realized we were getting close to the day that we were going to start filming the Munich Games massacre. And it was like suddenly switching gears and making a new movie. It was really hard to film, but it was also really transformative for everybody. We all felt that there was something tremendously significant that we were doing, and that in a certain sense, after filming a huge part of the film, we were now making the heart of the movie.
I think there was a little uncomfortableness at the beginning, especially the fears of the actors playing Arabs. They didn't want to be seen as people who actually, you know, felt the same way that the characters that they were portraying. And but pretty quickly we just became very comfortable with each other, and that first week of rehearsal was just a lot of talking and a lot of everyone just trying to sense out everybody else and trying to get a good sense of the story.
What's very powerful for me was that one of the actors that portrayed one of the Olympians that got murdered was an actual son.
Guri Weinberg played Moshe Weinberg, one of the coaches.
The idea of actually walking through the footsteps of my dad and what he went through was so intriguing to me, because, you know, when you hear the stories, it's all about tidbits, so it doesn't all make sense. So when you walk through it, it sort of makes everything real, you know? And I really understood exactly what he went through as much as I could, you know?
He's the bravest person on this film, and we connected because I lost my father at the age of 9 by gunfire, and so I connected with Guri right away, and so the shooting of that scene was harder for me than my own death scene. I even told him the day before we started shooting of that scene, I said, if you need anything from me, like when we're shooting, just let me know. And he's like, no. He's like, just do whatever you have to do. We're both actors. He's been very professional about it, which is amazing.
There was one thing I always said on the set. If the world could actually see the Israeli actors and the Arab actors together, there wouldn't be any more problems in the world. It was the most amazing thing that I have ever experienced. I've gotten more support from the Arab actors than I've ever gotten regarding this story.
It was a very emotional catharsis, I think, for both the Arab actors playing Palestinians and the Israelis playing the Israeli members of the team. Very, very hard for everybody. And so I wasn't thinking so much of technique, I was just thinking about holding my cast together and keeping everybody on an even keel, because it was hard. It was a rugged couple of weeks.
By the end of the film, I felt very much like, I felt like him all the way through, but it was almost in sync. By the end, we were shooting pretty much the end of the movie at the end of the shoot, and by then I just felt like I looked. I just felt very similar to the character. You end up taking on a lot of the character's state of mind. I remember one night coming home from work and cursing my makeup artist for not having removed all my makeup. And I washed my face and wiped it with a special makeup remover, and there was nothing on it. And then it suddenly dawned on me that the circles and rings that I was and the red that I was trying to remove from my face was mine.
You want your daughter to grow up in exile.
I want evidence.
And the end of the movie, where the scene between Jeffrey Rush's character and Avner, we've decided to photograph the scene on the shore of Jersey. We're actually looking at Manhattan from the other side, and the light is very kind of overcast, And it's a very sad scene, because it's the scene where Avner's hoping and expecting some kind of reassurance that what he's done was the right thing. He's completely broken down. He's looking for guidance. He's looking for explanation why he's done what he's done, and he got nothing.
Did we kill to replace the terrorist leadership or the Palestinian leadership? You tell me what we've done.
You killed them for the sake of a country you now choose to abandon. The country your mother and father built, that you were born into. You killed them for Munich, for the future, for peace.
And towards the end of the scene, the camera is moving up and panning to the left, and you're seeing where the World Trade Center used to be. And it was so relevant to us at that moment in terms of the story.
Eventually, the Arab states will rise against Israel.
They're sworn to destroy it.
Unless we learn to act like them, we will never defeat them.
Every now and then you get to be involved in a story that you think is going to reach out, and maybe in some little way it might change the world a bit. And I think in this case, I don't think the movie's going to necessarily change the world, but I think it will highlight the debate. I think if it gets people all over the world at least engaged in the discussion, then I think we've succeeded.
I think the thrill for me in making this picture was that I got a chance to work from one of the greatest scripts I've ever worked with in my life. There have been many great scripts that I've been blessed with as a director. But this script is one of the best, one of the very, very best screenplays I've ever had the honor to translate. And that was one of the greatest thrills for me about making Munich.
Well, we are tragic men, butchers' hands, gentle souls.
You know why we're here?